so today I'm going to talk to you about yoga. I know most people know what it is or have seen the practice, but haven't really been taught the background about it, so that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. And excuse me, I don't have my clicker, so I'm going to do it this way. But this is what we're going to go over. We're going to go over the definition, some history and philosophy, the different limbs, yoga in the United States, common types, and then health benefits. So 37 million. I know that's a huge number. Basically, 37 million people in the United States alone practiced yoga last year. So it's grown from being something that was mostly practiced, say, in like India to obviously like exploding in America. And it's pretty cool. So the definition was first mentioned in Vedas. They are these scriptures basically that were written about 5,000 years ago. And it described yoga as union or yoke. So it talks about helping an individual take their mind and their body and their soul and mend it together to be like one with the universe. So that's essentially what yoga is. There's 3 different types, I guess, back in the day. So it's karma, bhakti, and then jhana. So the first one is based off selfless actions. The second one is a form of devotion and prayer. And then the third one is study of philosophy and knowledge. And around the 1800s, a Mysore prince wrote one of the first manuals. And in this manual, it really broke down the different like poses and techniques of yoga. But nowhere in there did it actually mention yoga as an exercise form. It was more of a spiritual practice. So that's kind of an interesting fact. About a century later, the first yoga studio opened in the Mysore Palace, and it's still a pretty popular place to this day. So these are the 8 limbs of yoga and or like 8 teachings. So it's basically like restraining yourself, kind of like how people fast. They like take a certain part of their life away to gain a better understanding. So restraints, observances, postures, breathing control, inversion, concentration, meditation, and then your general equilibrium. So these, like I said, were the 8 limbs or 8 original teachings of yoga. And they thought that doing all of these things would essentially make you become one with the universe and like one with yourself. So those are just a bigger definition. In 1931, another like limb and or form of yoga was introduced, which is Ashtanga, and it's basically the yoga that we know today. It's the more athletic form of yoga that's linking many postures together to make like one fluid motion. So Pierre Bernard and Indra Devi, they were the ones that really like helped yoga explode in the United States. So Bernard was more of a showman about yoga. He would say that because he did his yoga practices, he would feel no pain when people would like stick needles in him and all that kind of stuff. So he was more about the showman, mysterious type when it comes to yoga. And he traveled around the world and talked about the different benefits. And then eventually he opened up a retreat center on the Hudson River that was mainly for like well-to-do people or celebrities. Debbie really put the influence on the physical benefits and the mental benefits of yoga. She opened a studio in Hollywood in 1947, and most of her major clients were like Greta Garbo, Gloria Swanson, and then Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was one of her biggest advocates, I guess, because she really talked about how yoga more or less helped keep her a little bit more sane in like the crazy Hollywood pace of life. So yoga in the United States today. So there's a lot of purists and then like Hindu groups that are really angry at people in the United States that do yoga because it's moved more from the spiritual practice to a physical thing. But they have also said that people are going in to yoga for the exercise purposes and coming out with a greater understanding and generally a little bit more calm or like have a deeper experience. So it's kind of cool how that worked out. So common types that we see today are power, hot, and vinyasa. So power is like where you flow from one pose to another in a very quick form or fashion. Hot yoga is 26 postures twice in a room that's about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. They pump up the heat so you'll essentially like sweat it out, but it's supposed to help with flexibility and help burn all those toxins out of your body. And then vinyasa is when you move slowly through the poses. And it's tailored more to the individual. So this is one of my go-tos because I've actually had a lot of surgeries recently. So it helps helps me stretch and help me ground myself without like hurting myself, more or less. And then yoga therapy is kind of new too. It's designed for patients with certain conditions like AIDS, depression, and heart disease. And it's really about focusing on how your heart and your soul and your mind can heal your body. So it's pretty new, like I said. Some health benefits are improving flexibility, posture, and endurance. This will help build up your muscle strength, and doing all of these things has seen to help tremendously, especially in the elderly community, because they helps prevent falls and stuff like that. It's thought to drain the lymph nodes and the lower level stress hormones in the body. This helps your body essentially like fight off infections better. Lower blood pressure, ease constipation, and then reduce hormones that cause depression, which is huge. And then it has been said it can help with some of those chronic pain conditions like fibromyalgia and back pain. So one thing about yoga, though, that I do have to say, it's been a huge benefit for me in my life, but if it's not done correctly, you can hurt yourself. In 2006, 4,500 people ended up in the ER because they were doing yoga. And these complaints were more like neck strains, pulled backs, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in doing yoga, super cool, but make sure that you're doing it right so that you don't hurt yourself. So in conclusion, we talked about yoga, like what it started out as was more like a spiritual experience and less of an exercise thing. We went over the 8 limbs and then how they added a new one recently. And then we talked about Pierre Bernard and Indra Devi. So Pierre was the one who was more of like a showman when it came to yoga. Like he said he was a mystic man and like felt no pain when he was, poked with needles and stuff like that because of the mindfulness that yoga taught him. And then Devi really focused on like the physical aspects of it and how it helps you as an individual be a little bit more grounded, a little bit more spiritual, and a little deeper. Then we talked about the common types, which are hot and power. Hot is that one that's about 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the room and you just sweat out all the toxins. And then power is more for like strength building, and it's where you go from one pose to the other. And then we talked about how yoga is awesome, but if it's not done right, you can really hurt yourself. So yeah, that's about it. That's my speech on yoga. So I hope you learned a little something. Thank you.